Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and as promised, here is the junk journal specifically. Now remember, this took up day 9, 16, and 21 of my Christmas series that I did for 2019. So I'm going to page through this. I'm going to show you the different items that were made. Again, not everything was shown in the video. Again, to save time. You know, it's the good and the bad. A lot of these videos were an hour long, and I really don't like to go over an hour when it comes to these types of videos. So, let's not wait any longer. Let's get started, and here we go. Okay, so here we are. So, this is our, the junk journal that we did. Now, this, of course, has a Christmas theme. Again, I had found a digital download when I was perusing Etsy, and this one just really caught my eye. Now, this style may not be for everybody. I do apologize. Yes, my hands look like they're out of sync from what I'm saying. I did do this live, but wow, the voice was just horrible. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe I forgot to turn on the mic. Not quite sure, but so I'm doing the voiceover. So you can see the only thing, I did pull in some items from my stash, such as fabric and other items, ribbon and so forth. Now this is a 2 signature journal, and this measures going across from side to side 5 inches by 8.5, and the spine is 1 inches wide. And again, it has 2 signatures in that. So, making junk journals, you know, you don't necessarily have to use what's in your stash. The junk journals that I make are vintage style. And I like to add that word of style to my phrase. You know, it's tough to find vintage ephemera, vintage books in my area. Now, I do have my thrift stores and so forth to get some vintage books. But again, they're just the books. You know, so it's tough. So I'm all about to make my own ephemera, make my own tags, make my own items. Now, what does make that work is huge fan of Tim Holtz, and he does a lot of that vintage items. You can see on this cover that where it says Christmas exhibition, that big piece that's in back of my focal point on my cover, that's actually a stamp that he has available, which I thought was wonderful because it's actually part of the digital download that I got from the Shabby Tabby Studios. And again, her shop will be linked down below. So that's what's really cool. Now, again, if you want to create, what's great with a digital download is it can give you everything that you need. You just have to add your cardstock for your cover or an old book. However it is you want to do that. If you want to add fabric, you would need to add that as well. But just using a digital download and just resizing it when you print it and so forth can give you everything that you need. And that's what I was showing in this junk journal. I love digital downloads, and a lot of times I do print those down and use them as part of my ephemeras. You know, whether it's in the background or whether it's just a little piece, a little snippet that I'm cutting out, because I love to layer. For those of you that have seen my videos, I am a layering person. I am a vintage photo ink person, whether it's oxide, whether it's different ink, and so forth. So here you can see the spine. 2 signatures are sewn in. I used a 5-hole series. On the back, I name every one of my journals that I develop, and this one is called Toyland, and I have my wax mark put on the back. I do let the back be blank, because again, the recipient can even journal or add their own ephemera to the back. I do add 1-inch ribbon and I lace it through. the sewn signatures, because then it doesn't fall off and we don't lose it. I'm just saying. You can add beads to the end, and usually I do add some paper beads to the end of those. So for my cover, I have the ephemera. Now again, that large piece in the back is a stamp by Tim Holtz. I added a piece of material. This little envelope in the front, those tags can come out. And of course, there is a pocket. The other pieces, the tickets, and the 3 coming off behind that envelope, including the envelope, are from the digital download that we received. You can see I do stitch around my cover. I do that twice, and then I do put a line or 2 close to the spine. For me, I do glue in the inside of my cover, which in this case was a piece of coffee dyed paper that I stamped over using a very large background stamp from Stampendous. It helps. Now I use my glue, whether that's my Fabri-Tac or my Uhu glue stick, but I do like to go over with the stitching. It does hold it in, and that's why I do put stitching along the spine as well. When it comes to a spine that I make like this with the 2 signatures, I do cut a piece of chipboard to be 1 inch or 7/8 of an inch wide. And I do cut it to be slightly shorter than my spine, my 8.5, because this is 8.5 inches high. So this is like 8 3/8. And I do glue that in, and that's what I sew through to my signatures. It gives it a little bit more stability, and I add a piece of material on top of that. Now, this is just plain muslin just to cover that up, and plus I like the tassels hanging up, or the piece of the material hanging up or down. So now we're going to page through. So whenever you see a printed copy, this is the digital print, unless I'll let you know otherwise. So just taking some of those items, you can see I have sewn some lace in as well. The pockets and the tags, again, I did use a sense of black. Again, this digital print did have that black soot, no pun intended, but again, you know, black soot from a chimney. So that is part of this as well. Again, it's a different look. It's a different feel. We added some charms, again, just reprinting, resizing. The digital download itself can give you, I mean, I was able to get that tag that small. Again, I do that down in PowerPoint just to resize that, or in the way that I print. So these are all of my coffee dyed, my book pages where I add my spine, my hinge to those so that they stay the right way, my ledger papers, the altered paper clips, which is holding an envelope, which is part of her download, because you can cut that out and then either let it just be folded or turn it into an envelope just like I did, and I filled it up with small cards or tags. If I backed my cards or tags with a black cardstock, I always made sure I placed a torn piece of ivory paper, copy paper, to the back so that people can journal on them as well. I'm in the world of adding areas and lots of space, lots and lots of space for people to journal on. Doesn't mean I won't stencil or stamp on those blank pages just to give them. I did not do that so much on these. Now that page that you saw where the envelope is, and you'll see another one, that is by a designer on Etsy called, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, it will be linked down below, Vintage, or Vintage, or Vintage, something like that. They are beautiful. There was 2 prints or 3 prints that were absolutely gorgeous that I just added in for my music sheets. As we continue through, we are at the center of the first signature. We have pockets, we have tucks, we have a tag, and then when we turn that over, we have another pocket with more cards and more tags as well. And you can see that music sheet is just absolutely gorgeous, and the image of the Christmas balls going in there. You can see as we continue through, I took a strip of the background paper, tore it on each side, tore it in on an angle, and I have a pocket to the right, and I have an upwards tuck to my left. And then I just took a piece of one of the background papers as well, tore that, and just folded it up. And it's another place to put in a tuck and for people to journal. Continuing to page through, and you can hear I'm paging through this as I'm going because I like to touch these items. I have another upward tuck, and that's just a section of one of the background papers as well. So usually in a digital copy, you get some ephemeras, some smaller items or envelopes or tags or circles or rectangles and squares, and other style pockets. But you also get these background pages that can be your pages. So those can be either resized, or you can manipulate those as well to make your pockets and your tucks, those larger items, or use the full sheets. As we continue through, I have a page that's folded out. I have a flag style paper clip, which you can pull out those little tags. And that's just holding some of our journaling cards as well on both sides. Now you can just put them on one side if you want, but when you unclip that, that whole page continues. Okay, so obviously my microphone disconnected. Yay! So here we go. We are at the center of our junk journal. And what I also liked about these background pages, or pages as well, is they're light. So you can actually journal onto these pages as well if you wanted to. Continuing through, I just took a piece of coffee stained paper, I ripped it, folded it over, added some pieces of ephemera and material, and just have it hanging over a page. Pushed up have a tuck in the upper corner there. And as we go through, what's really nice, we could put a pen in this lace that I folded over this page so that a pen can always be with the journal. And then, of course, we have our tag charm with some bells that you can hear in the background. Jingle, jingle, jingle. We love jingles. Little tiny bells. Love them. So, and again, just by resizing your pieces, you can get the different effects. So here we threaded a piece of the paper, the pattern paper. You'll see that onto the next side. Again, I have one of the pages just torn, another and folded up to journal on. Here's another one of those music sheets, and I just folded it to give the page some interest. It's not a pocket, it's just folded, so maybe a private message could be written there as well. We have an altered paper clip with a very large tag that can be journaled on, and with a tuck at the top of it that is holding a card, and then a long tassel that comes out the top. Another card on the other side with this page folding out as well. Continuing through, we are at the center. I always use wax thread when I sew my journals together, especially of this size. It is my favorite. And I just tied it in a bow, and I tore the sides of these pages and didn't even ink them. So you can see you don't have to, but just that torn look. It's very therapeutic to tear paper for me. I took another piece, tore it, folded it in half, and just put it over the edge of this fold out just to give the page, again, some interest. It's not a pocket, but what it does do is give just a little bit of weight to that page so that it stays down. On the other side, we have a double belly band with 2 cards sitting in there, and they can sit going different ways. Again, the music sheet folded, and here's the other side of that paper that we threaded through. Again, I like to get that signature sewn together so that the pages aren't lost. I don't lose my order. Some people cringe at that because then I start my sewing and all of that. I could rip some pages. I haven't had that happen yet. Notice now that I said that, it'll happen. So we have a side pocket there with a tag. And then on the other side, again, just a piece of decoration. You can put whatever you want in that pocket. So this here, I did the same thing as before. I've got this large piece of paper folded over, but it was bowing in the center. It wasn't staying flat. That's a pretty big pocket too. So what I did was I used those plastic discs, those rubber discs that I have, made sure that they're offset so that I'm only creating that bulk on the one thickness. But by doing that, I've created 4 pockets. So I have a tag, I have a card on each side. But again, making sure that they're offset so that you're not adding too much bulk. You want the recipient to keep adding and adding and adding to this. And now this brings us to the end. Again, you can add pockets and everything that you are looking for. And again, I have that piece of chipboard within the spine. It'll give it the strength and a nice solid side so that if they want to put this on a shelf, they could add their own fabric to the outside of this. Just because this is what my journal looks like does not mean that the recipient can add their little touches all throughout this, whether it's the outside or the inside. So I do hope you enjoyed this. I want to say thank you so much to the Shabby Tabby Studios and Vintage because they made the digital downloads available and I immediately fell in love with them. So I say thank you to them. Their shops will be linked down below if you want to check them out and see what else they have to offer. Again, these digital downloads were something that I like. Again, not everyone has the same taste as I, which is awesome. That's what makes this craft wonderful and complete, actually. But there is definitely something out there that you would enjoy as well. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And of course, the playlist will be listed down below as well. Junk journals will continue for me in the year 2020. And yes, I have had many people ask me, this journal will be available in my Etsy shop and it should be listed by the 15th of January. Got to take those photos and everything else to get that listed. I will apologize now. Right now, my shipping is only available within the United States as I am looking for a better cost-effective shipping outside of the States. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you have any questions, again, leave those down below, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative.